Hello, and welcome to the As a Podcast. I'm Noah Jordan,
And this is Lucas Lochisano.
and we're your hosts.
We're going to get into some politics, sport. Yeah, we'll see where things kick off from there.
Sweet. Alright, I think first we'll start off with probably the most recent news today regarding the ex-Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad. So we'll talk about the Syrian civil war. So...
Take it away.
Alright, so... Well, my thoughts on the Syrian war from a Western country point of view is to pretty much stay out of it as much as we can. And I do think Australia is doing that. America, they have the democratic forces in Syria, which I think is alright. They're not investing too much military into that. But I do think Syria is really not our country. It never has been. We've never had any influence on it. I think it's important for us to stay as far away from it as possible.
Stay away from the conflict.
Exactly. And obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if America tried to enter into it because there'd be much of a proxy war between America and Russia. But yeah, as we've seen, as the Syrian civil war, the second, started up about, I'd say, 2 weeks ago, the Russian allies, Bashar al-Assad, is essentially being overthrown now, which happened about 1 week ago. And yeah, so the four main sides, which is interesting, is ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or Al-Qaeda related. So the current terrorists, I'll say terrorists, but they don't claim themselves to be terrorists. And there's some debate going on whether they are currently classified as terrorists. They were associated with Al-Qaeda. They pledged allegiance to them. I think it was 11 or so years ago. I think 2013. And then I think they went back on that in 2016. So they have been involved with Al-Qaeda in the last decade. But yeah, I don't know whether to trust a former Al-Qaeda member or any terrorist member as a head of state.
Can you just run past, just for my sake, and maybe some of the viewers, what is Al-Qaeda?
So Al-Qaeda is a terrorist organization founded by, Osama bin Laden had heavy impact in founding it. A lot of people do know what Al-Qaeda is. Their most famous attack was on the World Trade Center in 2001, known as 9/11. And they're still a very active group today. And I'm pretty sure ISIS, if you don't know, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, I'm pretty sure, Iraq and Syria, I'm pretty sure they are meant to be like complete opposites to Al-Qaeda. So they're still terrorist groups, still, I think, primarily Arab and Muslim. I'm not sure which denomination of Muslim, but they don't like each other, which is not too surprising.
Yeah.
So those two are trying to fight for power. So the Al-Qaeda related groups are currently in power. I think ISIS is taking a bit of a blow. Obviously, the Russian allies, Bashar al-Assad, has taken a massive blow in that recently he's left the country. He's gone to Moscow.
Really?
Yeah. So that's the news. No, that's not the news today. That was about a week ago. But yeah, the capital, Damascus, they got stormed by those Al-Qaeda related groups, and he's out. How's that?
That's interesting.
Very interesting.
Do you reckon Trump's got anything to do with it?
Well, Trump did say that he thinks it was provoked by Turkey. So I don't think, which is interesting for a bit of input, not that's related to Trump's influence, I don't think Trump has any direct influence, but I do think it's part of the growing notion of the Trump effect, in that now that Trump's going to be in office, people are either, number one, doing things to prepare for a Trump term, or number two, doing things... it can be the same thing. Number one, doing things to align with Trump in the Trump term, and doing things to get done before the Trump term. So, obviously, he's very anti-war, pro-life. The terrorist groups probably thought, great time to overthrow, because Trump's going to try and make peace in the Middle East. And if we're the leaders of this country, Syria, while peace accords are occurring in the Middle East, then we would probably have a permanent establishment here. So I do think the election would have something to do with it. It's very interesting. Most of Syria is very, I guess they're excited, they feel liberated. The Assad family, they've been in rule the last half century, 50 years, I think, just over. And it hasn't been a good one. So what many people thought when Bashar al-Assad, the most recent president, came into office was they thought this guy would be, be able to do business with him, could reason with him, he'd be a good president. Syria wouldn't be such a bad place to live. That was not true. We saw that with their use of chemical weapons to enforce his anti-freedom of speech, a heavy dictatorial rule. That was not, it was not what they thought. It was not a good place to live. So it is an end of an era for Syria, and it's a good end of an era. However, most of Syria are celebrating and rejoicing except the Christian group. There is a Christian group in Syria, and some people fear that the new terrorist group in power may cause or may incite a genocide on Christians in Syria. So that is obviously not good news for a Christian Catholic myself, or any person, hopefully, with a pro-life attitude, pro-life belief. Obviously, we don't want...
No, of course not.
Anything to happen like that.
50 years is a lot. Like, a lot of time to be in charge.
Yes, and it wasn't the one ruler, it's the family, but...
But still, like, just it obviously runs in the family, what they've been doing.
Yeah, it's not good at all. And so the most recent news today was Bashar al-Assad's statement to the general public. The reason he went to Moscow was, he said Moscow told him to get out of Syria, and they wanted a peaceful transfer of power. He said, quote, "At no point during these events did I consider stepping down or seeking refuge, nor was such a proposal made by any individual or party." So he essentially didn't want to step down when Damascus, his capital where he was living, was being invaded. But he was pretty much encouraged, or you could say forced to, by the Russians. And of course Russia is probably their closest ally. And Russia wanted to keep him alive, so they had his best interests at heart. Obviously, I'm making out like, two nice guys for each other, looking out for each other's back, but and then, quote, "The only course of action was to continue fighting against the terrorist onslaught." That quote there, I think, brings up some controversy. This quote is what I could label Israel. So Israel, they try, their goal is to get rid of terrorist organizations. We know that there wars on Hamas, there wars on Hezbollah, there wars on Houthis, and it's all being funded by Iran. This is, technically, they're right. They're fighting terrorist groups, but they are not doing it in any means possible. We know they just chemical weapons, just bombing civilian populations, and we know it's a dictatorship. They bomb people on freedom of speech. It's as simple as that. So we know that that's just propaganda to try and justify what he does. And then he did go on to say, "It is a belonging filled with hope that Syria will once again be freed and independent," which I think is completely false and hypocritical, seeing that it was not free or independent under his rule. So what do you think of that whole scenario there?
Yeah, it's a bit I mean, I don't really have any words for it. It's still all a bit confusing for me, but yeah, I'm sure from someone like you who follows politics, it'd be a bit be very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of it. I'm not really rooting for anyone, to be honest. There's no real player there that's aligned in the way I'd want a country to be run. But then again, Syria is not my problem. My main country that I want to be run properly is Australia. But let's head over to those Western countries, a little less political and more, let's say, legal. However, it does involve politics. The Trump defamation lawsuit. So, for those of you that don't know, there is a defamation lawsuit that Trump threatened against ABC News Network because they made false statements against him. Now, a lot of people that are anti-Trump, because they believe the propaganda they hear, have no idea what the truth is and just like to go along with whatever they hear. So, what was said by George Stephanopoulos on ABC multiple times is they called him a rapist. And there was no evidence to back this up. They had no reason to say it except to try and politically picture him to the people as a bad person. Obviously, if he did rape someone, I would not look at him the same way, even though our political views do align. But it was just completely false. And the thing is, when Trump threatened to sue in the defamation trial, what did they do? They settled it out of court because they knew they were going to lose. Now, on that, just to get the stats, $15 million was given to, I'm not exactly sure what the foundation is called. I think it's like Trump Charity or something, but essentially Trump will pass that $15 million onto charities of his choice or ABC's choice, I'm not exactly sure, but it's going to charity, and then an extra $1 million is paid to Donald Trump's legal team to pretty much cover the costs of what the lawsuit would have taken. Now, of course, the mainstream media is quick to jump to ABC's case because they are politically aligned with ABC, and of course ABC are going to jump to their own case because they're ABC. Keep in mind, this is the American ABC News Network, not ABC Australia. But the mainstream media jumped to ABC's defense, saying that ABC had a very good case, they really could have won this. But here's the thing. If they think they could have won, why didn't they go for it? Why did they settle out of court? Is it because they didn't want the bad publicity if they lost?
Well, I think it's just it's a bit cheeky because obviously Trump would have very high-class lawyers, and with lawyers that ABC would go against, it obviously make their case much harder to fight against. But, I mean, it's obvious that they're accusing Trump of doing bad things such as rape. And obviously to try and sway was this after or before the election?
The accusations were much before the election, but this only happened a day ago.
Well, I was going to say, if it was the accusations were before, then a lot of people would just, see the news and be like, oh my God, Trump's a rapist, and then they vote for,
Exactly.
Kamala Harris or whoever was in charge of, was Joe Biden going for president at the time?
I'm not exact. I think there were multiple statements in which it was made, so it may have even been, God, I really don't know when the statements were made, but that's just the tip of the iceberg of when the statements were made.
Well, yeah, ABC obviously it's a bit more of a scare tactic towards other people who are voting in the election so that they don't vote for Trump. That's my thoughts on it. I reckon it's a bit of just an out of context accusation that shouldn't have been made, especially for someone like ABC. Obviously their political views don't align with Trump, but yeah, even if they don't, you shouldn't be accusing someone of rape, because especially in today's day and age, you just don't know where it can take you.
Exactly. I think
it ruins careers. I mean, we've been knowing this.
Well, it does. I think the hypocrisy surrounding the left's motivations is just unbelievable. If you notice, after the Hunter Biden pardon, Joe Biden said the only reason he pardoned him was because he thought there was political motivation imparted into the case. He thinks if his surname wasn't Biden, he wouldn't have been, the case wouldn't have played out the way it was going to, and he's not going to possibly end up guilty. those things happen. But it's unbelievable how he doesn't see that this is happening for Trump as well, except tenfold. They try and blame so much things on him. They try and indict him. They try and imprison him. They try to kill him. They try to assassinate him. They try to get him on every little thing just because of the position he's in. It's ridiculous that they don't see that. And we're seeing it now. They're calling him a rapist when he's not, and they've obviously settled it out of court because they were threatening a defamation trial. We know that ABC, if he was a rapist and they had any grounds to it, they would have pursued that court. They wouldn't have been defamed because there's a bad look on ABC now and they have to pay $16 million. So we know they lied. It's unbelievable how they don't see this type of things. It's ridiculous. The thing is, in particular, the Stormy Daniels case. Have you heard of that?
No.
That's what really, that really makes me question the whole legal system in America.
What happened?
Well, a lot of people know what it is, and a lot of people don't know the full extent of what it is. That's the difference. So essentially, allegedly, Donald Trump had sex with a porn star named Stormy Daniels about nearly 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, we'll say. That's not illegal. Then, because he thought it would be a bad look, he didn't want to her to go around parading that they had intercourse with each other. So he paid her off so she didn't tell anyone. Again, not illegal. Instead of himself paying it off, he got his, I think, lawyer or someone that he worked with or paid to pay her off, so the payments wasn't direct, and then he could pay him back. The lawyer, I'm pretty sure it was a lawyer, or accountant, that's right, it was an accountant. He would pay the accountant back who paid Stormy Daniels. And this payment, instead of one big transaction, was spread over, I think it was 32, I think 32 is the number, 32 payments, additional payments in his salary, which would then reimburse him over, I think, let's say 2 years. Have you heard the words indicted on 32 cases? That's because it was 32 payments. It's, they sensationalize this type of things. It was the one thing, it's just it was in 32 different payments because it was 32 different paychecks. They say he shouldn't be president for this illegal payments. I think that's ridiculous because you're putting the money around in a different way, and they haven't even proved this yet, have they? It's just completely, Donald Trump denies all these claims. It could have happened, we don't know. He denies them, they haven't proved them. They've got no grounds to say things like this. It's unfair.
So he's paying his lawyer, and then the lawyer's paying the porn star, and then they're trying to sue Donald Trump for it.
Exactly.
That's not illegal, though.
Well, the illegal thing was because he mislabeled business payments. So okay. The claim they make is that he paid his accountant the additional money for his job, for his services, not as a reimbursement.
Okay. And that's what they're trying to sue him for.
Yeah. They're trying to imprison him for. Now, how that's going to make him any type of a terrible leader or...
Mind you, this is what he's done 20 years ago. He was
literally, and how he's going to turn into Hitler because of this, as they like to compare him to, it's just beyond me. They have no grounds to say things like that.
Comparing Donald Trump to Hitler is absolutely outrageous.
Their main evidence was because Hitler had a rally in New York, or the Nazis had a rally in New York at Madison Square Garden.
How does that compare him to Trump, though?
Because they just want to label him a fascist. It's absurd.
But that's got no...
It's absurd. There's been millions or thousands of basketball games in Madison Square Garden. Does that mean LeBron James and Michael Jordan are all, Nazi... Does anyone that go in there, are they all fascists? That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's
no comparison, just because...
It's insane.
Like that doesn't even make sense.
I know. If Kamala Harris did a rally, would she be compared to Hillary? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk the world of sport.
Yes, I reckon that's a wonderful idea. Well, there was an interview with a Portuguese legend. Mind you, this is going on to soccer now. Portuguese legend Nani, who he played for Melbourne Victory as well, came down not too long ago. He said in an interview, Cristiano Ronaldo at the 2030 World Cup, he's about to start a new diet to be ready for it. Mind you, Cristiano Ronaldo will be 45 at the World Cup, in the 2030 World Cup. There will be one in the 2026 World Cup, which I'm assuming Ronaldo is going to try and play. Whether he gets game time or not, I'm not too sure. But that's crazy. 45 years old and he's wanting to start a special diet to be ready for it.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that is. I mean, he's honestly, in my opinion, Cristiano Ronaldo is not the greatest of all time at football or soccer, as we call it, but I reckon he's the second greatest of all time. I preferably take Lionel Messi as the greatest of all time. But I do think Cristiano Ronaldo is the greatest athlete of all time. I reckon the way he's,
As
still
in
going
soccer
at
athlete or just athlete?
just athlete in general. Just
Really?
athlete in general. Yeah. Honestly, he's the way his longevity of his career is just he's killing it. I mean, although he's playing in the Saudi Arabian league for Al Nassr, he's killing it. Like, people undermined the league because it's not a big league. It's getting up there, but people say, he's playing in this dead league. It's not the good league. Like, obviously he's going to be doing good, but mind you, he's old. Like, most people his age would have retired by now or earlier. Like, you hear,
how old is he now?
I'm pretty sure he's 39. He's 39, and he's going to be 40 in February. So in a couple months he'll be 40, which is just crazy.
I could not be playing a professional sport when I'm 40, let alone in my prime.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is the fact that his athletic ability now and him wanting to continue it in the next 5-6 years.
It's like LeBron James. Like, I mean, as you say, like, he's in the Saudi Arabian league, so he has, you could say, slowing down a little bit. But it's like LeBron James. Like, God, these athletes, LeBron would be 40, is he?
I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Like, he's got his son playing in the team.
He's 39 and he turns 40 at the end of the year, 30th of December. So,
wow,
that's I mean, honestly, comparing basketball to soccer, it's just like comparing Ronaldo with LeBron. It's like they're both almost 40 years old and still being compared to the greatest of all time. Like, people say that they're still the greatest of all time. Like LeBron, he's getting triple double. He got was it 3 or 4 triple doubles in a row this season, which is the first time he's ever done it in his career. He's never gotten to 4 triple doubles, like back to back.
So he's almost getting better.
Yeah, almost. he's crazy. But enough about Ronaldo. Have you heard of the name Lamine Yamal?
Not in the slightest.
He's just a bit of background context. He's 17 years old, playing for Barcelona. He was the youngest goal scorer in the Euros, which is a competition amongst Europe teams.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of like the World Cup, but just obviously not as good, because World Cup is like every country.
Oh, yeah.
To qualify, whereas the Euros is just
European.
Yeah, just European. He's Spanish. But he was the youngest goal scorer to score in the Euros ever, which is crazy.
Really?
But yeah, he in 2024 he was the most searched footballer in the world.
In front of Ronaldo.
Yeah, in front of
Messi.
Ronaldo, Messi, anyone like that. He's the youngest.
He's a proper player of Barcelona?
Yeah, Yeah, he gets game time. Yeah.
And so what permanent league do they play in?
Like league.
Yeah.
It's called the La Liga.
All right.
Yeah.
And is that with like Liverpool and?
No, Liverpool. So Liverpool is English. So in the English league, which is called the Premier League.
Oh yeah.
So
is that like UK or just?
Yeah,
England?
No, sorry. The Premier League is just England, whereas there's like a Scottish league and an Irish league. But
I think I just better say, Ireland isn't in the UK. That could piss a lot of Irish people off.
fair enough. Barcelona is in the La Liga, but there's also another league called the Champions League.
Yeah.
So, teams like Barcelona and Liverpool and, the big clubs, would play in this league because, in the Premier League, top 4, out of 20, top 4 goes into the Champions League, and it's almost like, it's not like a World Cup, but it's, like the best of the best teams, you know what I mean?
Oh, so is that like a tournament or is that an actual league?
Yeah, it's a tournament. So they've changed it up. So it used to be, in brackets. So there's Group 1, Group 2, but they've changed it so it's more like a league now. So yeah, you have
like,
your table and
like a season.
Yeah.
So Messi used to play for Barcelona.
Yeah.
So okay, so because with the whole, there's like one American league, correct?
Yeah, it's called the MLS, the Major League Soccer.
And he plays for Miami now.
Yeah.
So okay, so because when he moved to Miami, then I just remember, a year or two, whenever it was, people were saying Messi can never play Ronaldo again in a normal match. When they did, who did Ronaldo played for?
Al Nassr, which is in the Saudi league. So,
but who did he used to play for? Portugal.
No, he still plays for Portugal because that's your national team.
National, yeah.
But he used to play for Manchester United.
Oh,
so
that's right.
he started at Sporting Lisbon, which is in the Portuguese league, and then he moved to Manchester United, which is in the Premier League, the English league.
Yeah.
And then he moved to Real Madrid, which is in the Spanish league. So they go against Barcelona.
So that's where he versed Messi in the regular season.
Yeah. So that's where he went head to head with Messi. And then from Real Madrid, he went to Juventus, which is in Italy, which is called the Syria.
Is it the team you go for?
No, I don't go for Juventus. I go for AC Milan.
Oh.
Yeah. But I do like Juventus. They're actually a very strong team. I don't follow the Serie A too much, but anyways, so he went from Juventus and then back to Manchester United. And then he was, like, in my opinion, I reckon he was one of the best players at that age. He was like, I think 37 at the time. When he went back to Manchester United, 37. And yeah, I reckon he was one of the best, and they were calling him the problem. So, like, because Manchester United weren't doing great, like, they were losing games and,
But was this with him or without him?
With him. So, but he was still doing very good, but they were saying, they were, like, calling him the problem.
Bit of a bad
so
luck.
It's almost like, so he sort of has, like, the nickname when he went back to Manchester United, his nickname was the problem, whereas he was actually doing good.
That's strange.
But, yeah, I think it possibly could have been the manager, because he recently got sacked, which, thank God, because I don't go for Manchester United, but for all you Manchester United fans, I'm sure you guys are all happy.
So were they going well since Ronaldo's left?
No, they've been doing terrible.
So
I think they're going to start doing good. Recently, they beat Manchester City, which they call it the Manchester Derby, sort of like what we have down here, the Melbourne Derby.
Okay, yeah.
So they beat Manchester City at Man City's home.
Ooh.
So it was actually very, like, not controversial, but it was a comeback because they scored a penalty in the 88th minute. Manchester United, they were losing 1-0, and then in the 88th minute they scored a penalty, Manchester United, so it was 1-1, and then in, like, the last minute of the game they scored a winner. But so going back to Ronaldo, he went to Manchester United and now he's at Saudi Arabia. So but clubs can organise, like, friendly games. So the reason why you probably said before how, like, Messi went to American League and then they were saying how you might not be able to play Ronaldo again, they ended up having a friendly game. I don't think it was with Inter Miami. I think it was when Messi was still at PSG, but it's when Ronaldo left to go to the Saudi League is when they were saying, I don't think he's going to be able to play against each other. But then PSG, Paris, organised a friendly match with Ronaldo's team so that they could play against each other.
Oh, okay. Alright, that makes a lot more sense.
Mm.
I really thought there was like a almost like European a European league with a bit of Middle East.
It's more like the Champions League. It's like that sort of league. It's just like the best of the best.
It makes more sense now that there's like a national league for almost everywhere. Australia has its own, America has its own, and as you said, Spain, France, Saudi, England, they all have their own, and then you can play for. So essentially, you can play for your team and you can play for your country.
Yeah.
And then the team, if they're good enough, they can be in the Champions League, or they can be in the Euros tournament, or they can be in the. No, so Euros is nationals.
Euros is nationals, but it's like the World Cup. It happens every 4 years.
World Cup is also nationals.
Yeah.
So is the Euros and World Cup like alternate every 2 years?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
So okay. So when was the last World Cup?
World Cup was 2022, and the Euros we had. When was the Euros? Started this year. I think.
22. So the Euros is when Olympics. The Olympics are.
I think I'm not actually too sure about that.
Well, the Olympics were this
year. But I can't remember if it was at the same time. I don't think it would be because
at the same time.
Because
I don't think you would because you'd want to put your country in the Olympics, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So yeah, I doubt it'd be at the same time. But yeah, I didn't really follow the Olympics this year. I don't know about you. I just didn't watch anything.
I gotta say, water polo? Is that water polo the one where they
in the water
go in the goals?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like exciting. I gotta say, it looks exhausting to play.
Yeah, of course.
That was exciting.
Yeah, one I saw that looked very exhausting. It's like I don't know what it's called. I don't know if it's just rafting or kayaking. I don't know, but like the going like with this like river current.
And then they have to like ones. Where they got to go around like between the cones or whatever.
Yeah, like between like the poles, have to go around it and stuff like that. Yeah,
and if you touch the pole, you fail.
Like, yeah,
that's hard.
That's crazy.
I think we had some Aussies that did pretty well.
I think we did. I think we had an Aussie that came second or maybe even first. I'm not too sure. But yeah, that's pretty much going back to soccer. That's pretty much the basics. So, you got your leagues. That have like every nation has a league, and then you can play for your nation as well. But then the Champions League is for the big leagues. It's like a top four. So for the La Liga, which is the Spanish league, and the Premier League, which is the English league, it's top four. And then
does Saudi get any teams in that?
I don't think so. No, I don't think Saudi's in the Champions League. I'm trying to think if La Liga is top 3 or top 4 in the Champions League. I think it might be top 4, but either way, I'll just stick to Premier League. So Premier League top 4, goes to the Champions League, and then 5th goes to the Europa League, which is like a less of a version of the Champions League. It's like less of a quality. Like obviously you go against like not as good teams. But and then you have 5th. So so the 5th goes to the Europa League, and then 6th goes to the Conference League, which is just like lower than the Europa League.
Alright. So it's sort of like, a bit of still a reward if you made those top 6.
Yeah. And then obviously top 6, like if you come 6th, you'd go against like obviously worse of a teams. So for instance, Chelsea, which is like a very good team in the Premier League, they finished 6th last year because they had a bit of like not their best season. So they're playing in the Conference League now, and they're obviously killing it because they're playing like, I think last week they played this Kazakhstan team.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. So they're just playing randoms because obviously like they're not good teams.
And so is the Champions League, is that just Europe or like, is it just like whoever's sort of in it? Or is it international, global?
I don't think it's global because obviously like Australia doesn't qualify to be in that. I don't know if it's just European. I know Australia has an Asian Champions League, which we obviously qualify for, but we don't qualify for, you know, the big leagues because we're not as good.
Yeah.
But I think that's enough for soccer. Been talking about it for a while.
Mm.
Do you want to talk a bit about AFL? Maybe who might win the flag?
Possibly. I mean, I don't have my predictions in yet, but what are yours?
Well, I don't want to be biased because, I mean, we both go for Carlton, but I reckon we will definitely make finals this year.
Yeah.
I think it's comfortable to say we'll make finals. And the way our pre-season's been going, we're looking like a pretty strong side. I mean, our recruits, I'm happy with our recruits. You know, the Camporelli brothers and Jagger at pick 3. But I reckon I'm going as far to say that we'll make top 4.
Do you reckon we can go all the way, or is it like just...
I reckon we can, but obviously I've been saying that for 5 years straight.
Yeah.
So I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, I don't want to burst your bubble. I don't want to burst our bubble, but yeah, we have said the last few years that this year's the year.
Yeah. And obviously that has not happened.
Yeah.
Brisbane's just slammed the door in our face yet again.
Yeah.
But yeah, who do you reckon is going to get wooden spoon? Do you reckon a lot of people are saying it could be Richmond?
Well, I haven't followed any pre-season except for 2 Carlton injuries, so I really can't make a prediction, but based off last season, Richmond were in shambles. Like, they were just hopeless to the end of the season. They had, the bad teams, they always get a few wins towards the end of the season. Nah.
Surprised they beat Sydney though. They beat like the favourites early on in the season, but still, that's something they could at least get out of.
Yeah.
But I reckon a lot of people are saying that Richmond will get wooden spoon, but honestly, I feel like their recruits, obviously they got pick 1, but their recruits obviously...
What did they get, pick 1, or did Brisbane get pick 1?
No, they got Richmond got pick 1. And then North got pick 2, we got pick 3.
So what did Ashcroft count as?
Ashcroft was pick 5, I think.
Oh, so he actually didn't come first.
No, he didn't.
Okay.
I think teams didn't go for Levi because they already knew that Brisbane was going to match it. Yeah, because they got the father-son rule.
So Brisbane get pick 5 already?
I think there's a trade for it.
Okay.
Because they finished like high in the ladder, so they would have traded for pick 5.
Can't you say they were like pick 20 as their first pick, and like, can't you, and someone picks, say Carlton pick Ashcroft for pick 3, does that mean Brisbane can trade pick 3 for Ashcroft?
I'm not sure. I'm actually not too sure about that.
I'm not sure how it works.
I just get confused with the future draft picks because obviously, like, I don't really know how it all works, but it's what from my understanding is that, like, wherever you finish on the ladder is like, so if you finish last, you get first. If you come second last, you get second pick. Yeah. But people trade for like future 3rd round picks. You know what I mean? Like the I don't know. I just don't know how that all works. Like, how do you know? How do you already have that pick? You know what I mean?
And how do you know you're making a good deal from it, or?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not sure how it all works, but
they must have some plans for their future teams. Or...
Yeah, but yeah, going back to what I was saying before, I don't reckon Richmond will finish last. I don't reckon they'll make finals. I don't reckon they'll be anywhere near to make finals, but I don't reckon they'll come last. I reckon they might come 17th, maybe 16th, but I don't reckon they'll come last. I reckon a team who could come last could maybe be North.
You reckon?
I reckon they could. But saying that, it's just hard because they've got pick 2 as well, so that could...
It's hard to pick. I gotta say, for obviously following Carlton my whole life, we've been in the bottom for a fair bit, the middle for a fair bit, and recently, in the last few years, we've been in the top 8 a little bit. And something you do notice is that obviously there's always a contention for the top 8. Who's going to make it? Are we all going to make it? Who's going to make top 4? But there's also yeah, it's almost like once you get that selection of teams that you know are going to come bottom 4, bottom 6, it's hard to pick who's going to be the worst of them. You know, there's going to be one team who wins 2, 3 max games in the season, and then one team like West Coast who have been corrupt or Hawthorn who have been terrible the last few years, who, you know, they could quite easily
Well,
come.
Hawthorn had a really good season last year. They started off
but
0 wins and 0. I think it was 0-5.
Yeah.
0 wins, 5 losses.
Like, that's the thing, they had a bad start.
And then they ended up making
everyone,
finals,
including
and,
myself, labelled them as a write-off.
Yeah.
And then they made their way back into it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, unfortunately, we had the wrong end of the stick. We started off really well and then almost didn't make finals.
Yeah.
Purely based off another team beating Fremantle. Was it Port who beat Fremantle? Yeah, Port Adelaide beat Fremantle.
God,
which
how do we
saves
lose to St Kilda in that game?
Yeah, honestly, as soon as we lost that game, I was like, yeah, we have no chance against Brisbane at the Gabba as well. But yeah, I mean, we almost made history in that game, not scoring a goal in the whole first half.
60-0. You can't say we deserve to get much further than that. If you lose to, what was Saints, bottom 4, bottom 6?
Yeah, I think so.
You lose to them, and then you lose.
I think, like 16th or something.
You concede 10 goals and don't score in the first half. But yeah, you can't. Alright, well, I think that'll probably wrap it up for today.
Yeah, I reckon we've covered
a
lot of
fair
stuff,
bit.
basketball, politics, soccer.
A bit of Syria, Trump.
Mm.
Yeah, I learned a fair bit in that soccer.
Yeah, I mean, I learnt a bit in that. I didn't know about that whole trial with Trump and getting accused of, the rape. But yeah, I mean, very interesting. I'm very intrigued to see what happens in the next even few days.
Yeah.
See what else happens.
Who knows? That's the great. Anything could happen, really.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. Well, we don't know who's orchestrating the trials, who's orchestrating, if there's anything going on behind the doors, we don't know. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, cool.
Well, I think that wraps up today's episode.
Yeah.
Alright, well, we'll see you in the next episode.
See yous.